All right, if you're just joining us and you missed yesterday's video, then you missed kind of the drawing process for this flower where we attempted to draw this rose. Now, the reason I say attempted is because it has been almost a year since I have drawn freehand and intentionally drawing flowers and kind of like really trying to make sure they look good. Done a couple sketchy things, I've done a little bit of painting, but this was the first time I was going into the petals, really working on it and trying to come up with something beautiful. It's been actually longer than normal since I've done any intentional drawing, but I'm excited to take this opportunity to show you how I can take this from it's fine to something that's really great. I'm back with the same art supplies as before, so just to kind of review, I've got a white eraser, a kneaded eraser, I have my favorite drawing pencil, and my pencil sharpener. So all of those will be linked down below, and I have my reference image off screen, but I will have a little one for you up here. All right, the first thing we're going to do, and the first thing that I see that goes when I haven't been drawing for a while, is kind of line quality and line sensitivity. So if there are any lines that are shaky, like here, I'm going to kind of go back in and I'm going to kind of smooth those out. So things that if you're struggling with this, you might want to do it on a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to actually just do it right here. But if you're struggling with line quality, and it really is when like your lines like do kind of one of these and it's unintentional. So this is kind of poor line quality. And what you want to do is I am actually going to move my hand farther back on my pencil, and I'm going to anchor on my palm, on the side of my palm, and I'm going to push down and I'm going to draw something nice and smooth. And just kind of practice that, because some of my lines here are definitely shaky and irregular, and I'm going to erase some of those and draw them a little better. The most obvious is right here, these little leaves. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually not going to completely erase them. I am going to lighten them with my kneaded eraser. I'm just going to roll it across. And I'm going to go through. I don't want these to be too dark, so I'm going to be very careful not to like draw super dark. Okay, that's a little bit better. I'm just going to slow down a little bit. If you need to, take some deep breaths. Really make sure that you're slowing down when you're being intentional. If you need to turn your paper, that is also something that I find really helpful when I'm struggling to get the line quality the way I want. So this side has some texture that I want to kind of highlight, but I don't want it to be shaky like it was in my first one. And I'm not going to touch everything that I see an issue with. Just, we're going to be here all day. And again, this is just, we're just getting back on the horse. This is our first ride. It's going to be okay. I'm mostly looking for things that really stand out. So like definitely anything that has like double lines that I didn't like do correctly at all. We're going to fix those. I'll probably see some more as I continue to go around the flower and as we're working on the next couple steps, but I wanted to show you a couple examples. But I also don't want to get stuck in this drawing. I don't want this to be where I stop. I want this to be kind of just my jumping off point. So it's okay if in the end it's not the most beautiful thing I've ever drawn. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to establish a little bit more hierarchy. So we talk about this in the flower drawing challenge, which is my little mini course where we're establishing hierarchy, what's most important. We're adding in some darker lines. There's not a lot of weight to this. This all reads very much the same. So adding those thick lines, adding that variety in will be the secret. And again, I'm just going around the perimeter. And by kind of framing it, it's going to instantly look more like a flower. And if you have to push your pencil down a couple times, that's okay. Especially, I don't recommend dragging, you know, like putting your pencil down really hard and dragging. That will scar the paper. And if you ever want to erase it in the future or change something around a little bit, you're not going to be able to because your paper is going to be scarred. So it'd be better for you to choose a softer lead. So I'm using HB right now. I could go in with a B pencil or a 2B, or I can just draw over it a couple of times and it's going to be okay. Not super hard, but enough to kind of darken everything. I'm just going slowly around the perimeter. Okay, so we've got the perimeter. See how that automatically frames this in as this is a flower, but now everything else seems too light. Now what I don't want to do is just continue the same mistake, but just make everything darker. So I'm going to pick a couple things that I really want to highlight and also lighten something or deepen some things that got a little too light. So this like disappears. See how these two edges just like completely disappear? So I'm going to deepen them just a little bit. Not as much as out here, just so that they're not disappearing anymore. And if you're having trouble seeing if anything's disappearing, just lean back, step back if you need to. I lean back in my chair a lot. I'm actually surprised you can't hear it squeak as I'm going back and forth right now. But that will help a lot. So we've kind of refound some of these petals, and I'm going to deepen some areas in here just so that I can find where the center of this flower is. So see how that little bit is starting to bring it out. If I do it to everything though, we're just gonna have the same problem we had before. It's just gonna be a little bit darker. So my goal is not to make it look like some sort of crazy tattoo. My goal is to make it make sense. Make it make sense, y'all. So things like this line was mysteriously erased. So by me, no doubt. So I'm going to just make sure that that comes back. Okay, overall I'm pretty happy with it. So we've got our darker lines. Now I'm going to add in some of these more fine lines in here. So I'm going to kind of deepen, make sure that this is you can see that, and get some of these other detail lines in here a little bit more. Light lines, not a ton. I'm not going through and I'm not doing any crazy shading. I'm just trying to help define what's going on. I'm doing it very lightly, so I'm choking back on my pencil. This gives the viewer something to look at. So our deeper lines around help the viewer understand what is going on. But when we add those detail lines, it helps to draw the viewer in so that they are more interested in what's going on. They're interested in these fine little details. It kind of makes it a little bit of a treasure hunt. By adding in some of those smaller, fine detail lines, again, you're just adding a little bit of interest. You're making it look a little bit more realistic. And to do this, to add these lines, I'm not just going willy-nilly and adding random lines. I'm looking at my reference image. I'm trying to decide, okay, where should these lines be? Where am I adding little details, little veining from these little petals? I could even add some more in here. And I'm adding them very lightly. So again, just to add a little bit of dimension and interest to this piece that's already here. I'm not doing every single one. It's not my style. So if it is your style, if you really enjoy just the process of adding those lines in, do it. Another thing that will kind of improve the overall composition of my flower is to add more foliage and just a better composition. So I have some greenery down here. I could always include more here and maybe even exaggerate it a little bit, give it a little bit more of a swoop, give it a little bit more of a story. You can see how this is more interesting than just a rose, or even just a rose with a stem. Adding that little bit of composition in, having it connect so that it feels like one whole piece, is going to automatically be a little bit more interesting than something that doesn't have that. I could continue to go on and maybe add like a little bit of a bud up here. And maybe some more foliage. I mean, like that would be really pretty. Maybe I will end up doing that. But you see how even just that little bit of a sketched out illustration, let me deepen it so you can actually see it. Especially if I like turn it this way, that's already a lot more interesting. I hope that you found this video helpful. I would love to hear in the comment section down below, what are your favorite ways? Like how do you, when you're really struggling with your artwork, how do you get out of it? How do you approach your artwork? I'd love to hear about it down below. Let's be honest, if you struggle with something, even if it's something that I don't struggle with, you're probably not the only one. So if you need a little bit more help, well, go ahead and check the comment section. I'm sure that that is a wealth of information from our fellow artists and friends. And otherwise, I hope that you are having a wonderful, wonderful day. And until next time, happy drawing.